All right. It is 6:04 on November 1st, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. We'll start by roll call. Let's start on the other side here.
Jeannie Nyer.
Okay.
Michael Hall, Greg Demas,
Dave Bench. Lee, you want to say you're here?
Lee Simmons, City Attorney.
Okay, very good.
Could we hang on one moment? This live stream is showing that it's offline. I just want to make sure that everything is happening right here.
Let us know if we need to do the roll call again.
Okay, we're good.
We good? All right.
Yeah, we're good.
I want to start with item number 2, which is a welcome for Jeannie Nyer. Jeannie is joining us for the first time. She's been sworn in already. Jeannie brings a lot to the party. She's a lifelong resident of Rowanwood and has served on city council for, I think, 7 years, some time ago, and she brings a lot of experience, and most people in Rowanwood know who she is. So she bring that. I think that's a very handy thing.
Well, most of the older people in Rowanwood.
Well, I know you, and I'm not old. So, okay. Well, anyway, thanks very much for joining us, and we're certainly glad you're here.
Honored to serve.
Okay. On to item 3, which is our consent agenda. Or do we have public comments? Regular public comments? We don't have anybody signed up. Okay, so item 3 is a consent agenda, and it consists only of the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion on it?
I have a motion to pass the minutes.
Okay, you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes or the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. 4 to none. Okay. Moving along here, we're item number 4, a public hearing, discussion, and possible action regarding an amendment to section 107-35 of the city's Code of Ordinances to add regulations for sports court. I'd like to open the public, it is 6:07. I'd like to open up the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to make comments with regard to this item? No? Okay, very good. Please. Yes, if you would, please.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Harris. I live at 3012 Hatley. I support the proposed changes to the Code of Ordinances and would like to call attention to the fact that the mayor specifically stated in the September 20th City Council meeting that this is simply a clarification to the way the rules have historically been interpreted, a belt and braces approach to ensure no future misinterpretations are possible. Furthermore, in that September 20th meeting, there was considerable City Council discussion on the topic of sport court regulations, specifically noise regulations, specifically pickleball noise. And I'd like to speak to this commission to address some questions the council members raised, because those questions are relevant to planning and zoning and land use regulations in general. This may take slightly longer than 3 minutes. May I have a few extra minutes to discuss this?
I think we can handle that. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have that big a crowd here.
All right, thank you. First off, I'd like to start with what is my agenda. My agenda is not to say there should be no pickleball in the city of Rollingwood. That is not at all what I'm proposing. Instead, I'm here to argue that we need to codify usage rules or enforce existing rules to strike a balance between court use and enjoyment and a neighbor's rights not to be confronted with a nuisance. That is my agenda. If some of you have electronic devices in the agenda packet, there are several items that were attached, one of which is several presentation slides that I've composed. I'd like to just walk through those briefly. You don't need to follow along. I think my arguments can hold water without seeing the material directly in front of you. So first, I'd like to start with the discussion topics I heard from watching the recording of the September 20th City Council meeting. I think they boiled down to some discussion amongst the City Council of, is pickleball noise an issue the city needs to tackle or just accept? And some discussion amongst the members of, is there a real difference in pickleball noise versus other court sports? So I've done some research, and it turns out that there is scientific evidence to support the fact that pickleball volume and pitch is significantly different from other court sports, making it significantly louder. It does devalue, pickleball devalues adjacent properties, and it is a source of neighbor tension. So with that in mind, I would like to make the argument that private resident sport court usage needs updated city regulation to ensure a few things: reasonable start and stop times and reasonable duration of play, as well as just sensible court use restrictions in general. So how do we define sensible court use restrictions? I'm going to give you some examples to the contrary in the form of 3 questions. Is it acceptable to have a private club with members using a residential sport court facility on a daily basis? Is it acceptable to convert one residential tennis court into 4 pickleball courts where 16 people play simultaneously on a daily basis? And is 6:30 a.m. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, a reasonable start time for pickleball games? So the following documents in your package are the research that I've done. I referenced articles from RacketSportsWorld.com, the New York Times, NPR. I'm not going to go through those in much detail, but those are the evidence to support the fact that pickleball is noisier than other court sports. It has to do with both the volume and the frequency. High-pitched noise, a baby crying, a backup siren, a pickleball strike. It's louder than tennis. It's louder than basketball. It's a documented nuisance. It's a source of lawsuits across our nation. It is a problem. I would like to encourage this commission and the city council to tackle it, not to ignore it. The final article that I referenced, I think is the most important one I'd like to call your attention to. It was a feature article in the Austin American-Statesman of July this year, talking about a private pickleball club that plays on a daily basis at 3016 Hatley. It is a problem. Those games start at 6:30 a.m. They last between 2 to 3 hours. There are 16 players simultaneously on that court. This morning there were 19 cars parked outside of 1316 Hatley to accommodate all the players. This is a private pickleball club that plays at a residential sport facility. It's improper use. It's easy to dismiss this as, Glenn, you're the dummy that bought a house next to a tennis court. Why did you do that? There are some pictures in your documentation that show a progression of events at that court. When I purchased the home, I showed up every day for 2 weeks. When I was in the period before my contract was certified that I had to buy the house, I showed up in the morning, in the afternoon, late at night. I drove to work to see how was the commute. I monitored the court usage. It was one single tennis court. It had a sensible usage protocol. It was not a problem. Over the years, that has progressed from one tennis court to be modified to accommodate 2 pickleball courts, and then finally 4 pickleball courts. This article in the Austin American-Statesman makes it clear that there is a private pickleball club that is using a residential sport facility. I don't think that's proper at all. And what I think needs to happen is that the appropriate commissions and the city council update our regulations to make that specifically clear that I would like updated rules to support the fact that a residential sport court is not intended to be used as in a membership or club use facility manner. And I think it is an item that we need to tackle. We need to make that clear in our regulations. We need to provide new regulations that stipulate stop times of play and actually duration of play. One of the quotes in those articles was, you can't take pop 12 hours a day and remain sane. And this is from an avid pickleball player who's an engineer who's researched the noise issues. I think we need to update our rules. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Certainly.
You had mentioned here, I'm looking at your discussion topics from September 20th City Council meeting. You mentioned the last, or the second to the last bullet point is the noise issue something that we should have the CRC look at as part of the land use and residential zoning issues? Are you familiar with this, with the survey that is currently out there and is?
I am.
Have you used that opportunity to voice your view on this?
I intend to. The bulk of my duties have been devoted to this topic tonight, but I intend to address it on that survey.
May I
I
say
know
that's
that-
an
I know that-
ideal place to put it?
Absolutely, I understand that. But I'd like to clarify that this quote that I have on there is not me speaking. This is something that I've picked up from city council. Just all these quotes are what city council members said in that meeting. But yes, absolutely. Thank you for your encouragement. I will fill out the survey. I know the deadline. I will meet the deadline and fill out the survey.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
The other thing is, have you had any discussion with your neighbors about this? Not the pickleball court owners, but the other, Hatley neighbors or whatever?
Over the years, I have had discussions with my other neighbors.
Mhm.
I've had neighbors approach me, come ring my doorbell and say, "Are you having trouble with this?"
Mhm.
And we have agreed that we've all had trouble. A little bit of history. Things got out of hand during COVID. I try to be a reasonable citizen, a reasonable neighbor. COVID was an exceptional time. There were people that were able to gather there and have community and enjoy an activity that they could enjoy. And I didn't pitch a fit about it. It was an exceptional time. But I think that was an on-ramp for continued usage. And I somewhat regret the fact that I am this late in addressing things. Every man reaches his breaking point. I'm at mine.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I just want to tell you that I appreciated reading all of your attachments that you sent.
Well, thank you for reading them.
And I too have heard complaints from my neighbors who are close, so.
Okay. Thanks very much. That was good. Do we have any other public comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Please do.
My name is Tony Henley, and I live at 2904 Hatley Drive. And I was on the Park Commission for a few years, and I know that there's a restriction on the time that the tennis court is allowed to be used. So the tennis courts, I think there's no play allowed on the tennis courts. Don't know exactly. I don't think it's before 8 a.m. because of the noise and disturbance to the neighbors. And in that regard, there's really only one neighbor with connecting property to the tennis court of the Western Hills Athletic Club, and then there's people across the street and across the parking lot. And also there's no lights allowed either. So that was, on the Park Commission, we were always very sensitive to what the neighbors had to endure as far as the public use areas. And so we had that always in consideration of being respectful to the neighbors. So with that in mind, if this facility is being used as a, public gathering place, then it should probably have some of the same restrictions as the Western Hills Athletic Club does, as in no lights and no play allowed before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my comment, and thank you for allowing me to say it.
No bad. Thank you. Do we have any other? Do we have any questions, Tony? Okay. And thank you. And if there's no more public comment, it is 6:18, and we're gonna close the public hearing. All right. We're to take this issue up now. Everything has been discussed around here, just prior here, has been about pickleball, and that's not really what we're here to talk about. Okay, and that came out early on. But what we're really here to talk about is whether or not the current ordinance that has to do with setback limitations with regard to tennis courts ought to be expanded to include to sports courts, a more general term. when I first heard about this, I thought it was going to be a slam and dunk kind of thing, that we would just kind of knock this out pretty quickly. And then I thought about it some more. I said, well, it's not really a slam dunk. There's probably a lot more complicated than that. And then I thought about it some more, and yeah, it is a slam dunk. So my view of it is that the changes to the ordinance are minor and probably should happen. I would like to see some sort of a definition, though, go into the ordinances. It says what a sports court actually is, and I don't think we have that.
We do not have that currently,
yeah.
and I'm glad you brought that up. That was something that came about a little later after this information was posted, that we would like to have a definition of that in the ordinances. I know that we posted for this specific section, but legal has confirmed that it would be okay in the same public hearing that we've noticed this, that it's related, and so that could be part of y'all's recommendation tonight, would be to add a definition of sport court.
Thank you. That's good. That's good. So, I trust that everybody here has read through all the material and understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish this evening or talk about.
I just have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
The 3016 Hatley comment that we just heard,
Yeah.
that is different than Western Hills, am I correct? That's a private residence tennis court that is now hosting effectively a league or something like that, and very different than what's happening at
Yeah, as I
pickleball
understand-
courts at Western Hills.
Yeah,
correct?
as I understand, it's a private citizen who had 2 tennis courts and he converted them to pickleball courts.
Understood. Okay.
Oh, there's only 1 tennis court?
One tennis court
Okay.
converted to 4 pickleball courts and is
Okay.
now hosting
All right.
what
Yeah.
appears to be a league or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
The Austin American Statesman article that was included in the packet is actually quite good. It goes into a lot of description as to what happened and how it got to where it is.
Yep.
And it was probably more in favor, I would say, of what was happening, but
Wasn't written from a neighbor perspective, I don't think. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't from a neighbor.
And so to be clear, the topic at hand
Yeah.
is not changing any sort of potential zoning or anything as it pertains to Western Hills. This is more general around sport court regulations across Rollingwood.
Yeah, it might be useful whenever this came up with City Council.
Yeah.
One of the council people had noted that someone was asking whether or not, or wanting to proceed with building a pickleball court in the setback, or at least part of it would be in the setback, and saying that they could legally do that because it's not in the ordinances. It says that they don't. They can't. It's nothing in the ordinances that say they can't do it. It says tennis courts, but it doesn't say pickleball courts.
Mm-hmm.
So the discussion came around, well, maybe we ought to just generalize that a little bit more and say, well, the intent was that it would be all sports courts, but pickleball's only been around a couple of years. These ordinances are old, they're showing their age, and we just need to update it to include other things. So that's really kind of what got the discussion going right there. And the way things work is it needs to trickle down to us, and then we talk about it for a while, make our recommendations, then it goes uphill from here.
Sure, but it feels like now the discussion, at least the essence of the discussion that we're having now, is bigger than building it in the setback or not. It's about noise ordinances, it's about potential time.
I
for
don't
use.
think
Am I
so.
correct or no?
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay.
No, we are, I think, for the purposes of what we're going to do here tonight, I think we are limited to just talking about whether or not we recommend the change of the ordinance.
Of tennis to sport court and potentially better
And
defined.
that's it. Now, we can make recommendations,
Understood.
but that would be outside, that'd be a separate item.
Understood.
Okay?
Yep.
Any other, so in order to proceed, we need to have someone make a motion.
I mean, I motion to approve the amendments of tennis court to sport court language that was attached in the agenda for this meeting.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
chiming in, do you want to recommend a definition that you direct staff to draft a recommendation.
Would we want to do that first, are you saying? I mean, yeah, I want to do it in the proper order. I was going to come up with that later, but if it makes more sense to make that recommendation before we get this far.
I think it would be better to put that into the
Okay.
base motion.
So then we wouldn't want to make it into two motions separately, or you would want to take the motion, what Greg had just said, and then add to it with the proviso that we would also put a definition into the ordinances of what sports court means.
I think that would make the most sense.
Okay, let me
Can you help me?
rethink that.
Help me out.
I motion to amend the zoning regulation to specify sport court over tennis court and expand the definition of what a sport court is.
That works.
Would that do?
If it
Okay.
would help, you can read the agenda item, like, fill in that front, and it's very specific.
That would be, if you read
Of course,
item
I just
number,
closed it down, so let me pull it back up so I can read it exactly.
you got it right there in front of you, item 4.
Oh, I thought I was going to be reading actually language off of. Okay.
Okay.
I motion to amend section 10735 of the city's code of ordinances to add regulations for sport courts as well as expand the definition to be more specific of what a sports court is.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? No discussion? All in all in favor of passing the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, 5-0. Looks like motion is passed. So we're moving along. All right. Before we get off of that, I'm wondering whether or not, would we be so far off topic if we had made a recommendation that we need to look at the city ordinances with regard to pickleball and noise and so on? Would we be off base doing that right now, or should we do something with that later?
Well, right. So
Well-
we are posted specifically regarding this section, and then we did expand that to the definition.
Yeah.
I would ask legal if
Yeah.
that would be something that we are posted
Yeah.
for this evening.
Can we make a recommendation to city council that this needs to be looked at?
I don't think you can take action on a recommendation
Okay.
via vote. I think I would feel more comfortable if it was posted at a future meeting.
Okay. You're witnessing the speed of government here. All right.
And just to clarify, there was a lot of stuff that was added to the packet about pickleball and noise, et cetera. Was that all a collective citizen comment, or okay?
Yeah. You missed a very good presentation,
Okay.
Tony. Yeah.
I read through it all, but yeah, I just wondered if that was from staff or from the president.
And for any future amendments that would happen to anything in section 107, that would have to go through the public hearing process again. So we would have to, properly notice. If it was outside of section 107, it would not have to necessarily go through that process, but it could still be something that the P&Z would like to discuss.
So, yeah. I want to be good at this. All right. So if something had happened prior to, say, last week, if we had gotten some notification from someone that they wanted us to take this item up, and that it got onto the regular agenda, we could do something about it this evening. Is that right?
You could discuss it. For the public hearing process, if it was going to be a true recommendation of a change to something in section 107, which is the zoning code, we have to still do the notice. And so that here in this case is 20 days, I believe, mailed notice
Yeah.
via postcards. So, but you could put something on the agenda to discuss at any time.
Yeah, I
72
guess what I'm
hours.
trying to do is, I think, I don't want to make a recommendation with regard to what we do, say, an amendment to a noise ordinance or whatever, but rather a recommendation that we get it onto city council's agenda for the next city council meeting so that they can take it up and then toss it back to us.
You could ask the city council member to sponsor that item,
Okay, all right.
and then they can submit
That may be the
I
best
think
way
that's
to
coming.
go about it at
All
this
right.
time.
That's coming. We'll do that.
And then we could, at the end of our meeting, suggest that we have this on as a discussion
Yeah.
topic for our next agenda.
Right.
Is it okay if I ask these folks if they're okay with doing that?
I think the discussion, because we're talking about adding regulations for sport courts, I don't think that it's off base given the comments we've had, to have that discussion.
Is everybody good with that? We'll see to it that it gets on city council's agenda next time.
In our agenda, I think, to the extent needed, yeah.
Good, good. We're moving a little faster. All right, okay. On to item number 5, update regarding the CRC community survey. Everybody should have gotten one of these by now. I want to thank Greg and Mike Rhodes, who both came out in support of this. He helped hand these things out. We put out 450 of these a couple of weeks ago, about 10 days ago. And we, at the last I heard, several days ago, we had 165 responses. We've all been beating the drum to try to get more. I'd like to get more than 200 if possible. I feel good that we're going to get there, but I don't know for sure. And
Dave, is that 165, that's total individual responses, so it could be 2 from a household, not necessarily 165
I
households?
can't tell you what they are, Tony.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any of it yet. It's all in the hands of Bowie Company, and all they are is giving us a flat number. So I presume that some of them are going to be 2 per household, yes, but they are individual responses. We've had a number of folks ask us questions. As I say, I've been beating the drum. I was at the trunk or treat last evening, trying to call anybody I could who might not have taken the survey yet, and advise them to do it. I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to listen to me talk about it. So,
Do you happen to know offhand what kind of response we got to the commercial survey, the similar survey? that was
we
done?
had overall around 400. It was in the 400 area.
Okay.
And
You'd like to
many of
think
the
the
questions
residential you'd get
were
that much
asked.
or more.
I'm sorry?
You'd like to think on the residential you'd get that much or more.
You would think. I don't know whether it might be survey fatigue or just the time of year or what. I'm a little surprised that we don't have more. We've tried to structure the survey such that it is understandable. I've seen a number of comments on local listservs that say, I've taken the survey, it's understandable, I learned a lot in the process. I think it's, we did our best with it. We'll take what we get and we'll use it, I promise. But if we can get over 200, statistically, that works well for us.
Maybe we just have a lot of procrastinators that all do it on the last day.
It could be that. I'm hoping it's that.
That would usually be me, but I've already done it.
Dan, how many houses are in Rollingwood?
No one knows for sure.
Approximately?
Well, there are something like 512 water meters,
Okay.
and a number of those water meters are irrigation meters. And I don't know if those 512 include commercial meters. But as I said, we handed out just about 452 households, and that included Tremont across the way, across Bee Caves, which has 22 households. So
I've always
it's
heard
hard to
about
know. We
450.
have to think that we got everybody
So
at 450,
Reason-
right around that.
Okay. The reason
Yeah.
behind the question was, in theory, a 100% response rate would be approximately 900 responses. Right. So you're
If there
talking
were
about-
2 per household,
Right.
you'd have
if we
approximately
capped
that.
it and-
That's right.
But,
But there are going to be a lot of, you'd be surprised at how many single-member households there are.
Mhm.
And that came out in the last survey. It was one of the demographic questions that came out, is that how many people live in your household? And there were a number of people who are by themselves.
Right. So at 160, assuming it goes up a little bit, I'm just back of the envelope math here. We're gonna have probably something like 25% response rate.
I would think so,
roughly,
yeah.
in right in
Of
that
houses,
area.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
like something like that. If you take down the 900
Right.
and account for single households and irrigation meters and blah blah blah, it's probably something like 800, whatever, something.
Of adults,
feel-
yeah.
of
Well, I
adults,
mean,
right,
we're
yeah.
really surveying households,
Yeah.
but no more than 2 per household. So, I could argue with you a little bit on it.
Sure.
Make it 30%.
Yeah, sure. 30.
Okay.
I mean, either way,
Alright.
it feels it doesn't sound terrible when you look at it as a percentage.
No, it's good.
It feels fairly representative. But,
Good.
I mean, okay.
Actually, I think that we can do a statistical analysis that will tell us. I understand from Bowie Company that they think that something like 220 will get us to a 99th percentile of confidence. So I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that I've heard that.
So
kicked
hopefully
around
there's
a little
60
bit.
procrastinators
Yeah.
out there.
So.
That'll get us there.
And if we get, 90% confidence, I think it's still worth going. The whole thing with the survey is that it's not a democratic vote on any of these things. What it is we're just trying to determine where the interest levels are, so that we know what things to attack first and which things to attack hardest. So, and that's pretty much all I know about it right now. I mean, hopefully we'll have a whole lot more about it next meeting whenever we get together, because by then we'll actually start, hashing out what we've seen. We won't be ready yet to have made any recommendations based on what we're seeing, but we will be getting out there and telling the people or the public what it is we think we're hearing. So we ought to be able to get a numeric analysis done pretty quickly, the yes, no's and things like that, But the comments, well, they're gonna take a little waiting to get through. It takes a lot of time to get through what everybody's saying, and I know there'll be some good stuff out there. So, anybody have any questions for me on this? All right, and let's move along to discussion item number 6, which is a discussion of intent to continue to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have several of our members who are, I guess, up for consideration again. I'm sorry, I don't have this
I
in
have
front of
it.
me.
I'll be happy to read those
Yeah,
off. So,
yeah.
of our 7 positions, 4 of them are up currently where their term would end in 2023. I will note that it's rare that when people don't roll off generally at the end of a term. So sometimes, like in this case, Jeannie and I are here on this list, and so we would hope that you would like to continue serving. It's only been 1 meeting, but so at any point, sometimes people serve odd terms and don't always fill out a full 2-year term. But this time in December 2023, we have Brian Nash, Jeannie Nyer, Michael Hall, and Tony Stein. Those 4 positions are going to be up. We basically just like to get a verbal confirmation or have a discussion with everybody here who is on this list and would like to continue serving, so we can take that to the city council, and they will make a full reappointment of all of the members whose terms are ending currently.
I would like to say that if you feel like you've been on this commission long enough and you are looking for something else to do or you're just looking for a break, there are people that do want to be on it. And so, I'm not inviting you to leave, but I'm giving you the opportunity if you felt like you wanted to. So, that's it.
So at this time, just for anybody who is here, if you would like to, I think currently on the list here today is Tony and Michael Hall. If y'all would be interested in continuing to serve, we will put your name on the list for city council to review.
I would be interested in continuing.
Okay,
Same.
wonderful.
Good. That's great. It's going to get more exciting. All right.
Thank
I
you.
think that we finished.
We
That
are.
completes our items. And can I get a motion?
I move for adjournment.
Okay. Anybody second that?
I second it.
All right. Let's go. We won't take a vote.
Thank y'all.
Sorry for